From the studios of the Bakersfield Californian, it's time to open up with real people and real talk about real stuff. And now, a special welcome to our friends throughout California, across the nation, and around the world to this week's edition of Open Up.
Welcome to Open Up. I'm Tina Miller.
And I'm Don Clark, your favorite pair on the air. Glad to be with you. A shout out to everybody back in Washington, D.C. today watching. Thank you for being friends.
Yes, thank you so very much. And to dear friends all over the world, Don, many other countries. And speaking of other countries, our guest today is she's actually born and raised, I suppose, in another country, the Dominican Republic. And but by way of Los Angeles, we have her here in Bakersfield.
And I'm telling you, you don't want to miss this program because do you dream?
Yes.
Do you ever have dreams?
Yes.
Well, we're going to talk about a woman who is gifted in dream interpretation and gifted in so many ways that you're about to discover.
Yes, Dawn. And we're going to first hear a little bit about her background so she can bring us into that.
You bet.
And we're so excited today to have Malvina Laudicina with us today.
Isn't she lovely?
Yes, she is. Welcome to Open Up.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure and honor to be here with you guys. So I'm really excited to see what God's going to do today.
You bet. You
Yes.
bet. I've read your bio, and it talks about some years in the corporate world. Tell us. Let's start there.
Yes.
And because that's an unusual beginning to become a dream interpreter. So.
Oh, yes. It's been a long journey, and my testimony is one of victory in God. You know, I did everything by the world standard. I am the perfect picture. You know, I went to school, I got degrees, I did it all right by what the world values.
And your degrees were a bachelor in?
Yes, I have graduate degrees in chemistry.
In
science.
You are a chemist.
Yes, I am a chemist. I want to say I was a chemist. But yes.
And you were into drugs.
Oh, very much so.
Legal drugs. Tell us about that.
Correct. I worked for pharmaceutical companies for 25 years. So I moving the corporate ladder, very high level positions, I work for large pharmaceutical companies, global business. So it was a very intense life, a very demanding life that required, neglect of my family and sometimes finding relief of stress in the wrong places. Mm-hmm. So part of my testimony is how the Lord took me out of that life, because I got to know the Lord, but I didn't know how to walk away from it. How do I balance now what God is asking me to do with this huge life I've created, Mm.
So, Malvina, I think there are many people like that. They're in something, they find the Lord. I happened to meet the drug lord of Kingston, Jamaica.
Oh, yes.
And he had come to, but you just can't walk away from that drug world when you're at the top of it without sacrificing your life. So
That's
many
correct.
people in your spot, or like a bartender who does he stay doing that job? So tell us how you were led away.
Well, that's the Lord really had to. I knew I was wrestling with walking away from that life after I was raised Catholic. So, I really, church was a compartment in my life. It wasn't really part of my whole life. So I did my work, I did my life. My family was falling apart, and I went to church. So I didn't understand. I knew of God, but I didn't know God. I didn't have a relationship with the Lord. I didn't know Jesus, what He has done for me and what it meant. So when I found the Lord, it was all very supernatural. I realized, okay, I'm in conflict with everything. I could see God is calling me away from this life, but I didn't know how. And that wrestling really created a lot of stress in my life because I didn't know how do I stop this? How do we pay for our mortgage? If I walk away, because I made a lot of money. So it became very addictive. I had I traveled the world. I did so many things that were exciting by the world's perspective, but they didn't satisfy. So with that, I went through a huge stress in my life, and I really became very ill. And I really, my spine really got injured by the stress, and I couldn't hold my head in lots of pain. And I started deteriorating, and I will take time off. Okay, I'm just going to be home and rest. But it got worse and worse and worse. And then I found myself, I can't work anymore. And now what do I do? So it became that moment where I really needed to hear, okay, God, how are we going to do this? And in my distorted view of God, I thought, okay, he does miracles. So he's going to heal me so I can go back to my life, So I was expecting this pick up your mat and go kind of miracle. And it wasn't working. So I really had to come to that place where, okay, God, what are you saying? And that has become the theme of my life. Yes. We need to have clear understanding of what God is revealing to us to know his will for us. So it took me a lot of surrendering and a lot of getting to know him intimately. And that's where my paintings come from. If you look at here in the studio, that's my healing came from them. It was God revealing himself to me very intimately. And I made the decision after 2 years of being in bed, not doing much, I will walk away from that corporate world. And we will have to figure out how to live. So we started living by faith, pretty much. And that was the beginning of a journey with the Lord, of a new life, complete new understanding of who God was for me.
Your accent, where does that come from?
I am from Dominican Republic, so I speak Spanish.
Yes. Okay.
I speak Spanish. Or I'm not sure.
It's delightful.
And the
Thank
cute
you.
curls. Now,
Yes, it's part of my testimony.
share that, please.
Yes. Part of my illness, the doctors didn't know what to do because there was no actual root to my disease, okay? So it was just, I think it was a spiritual wrestling that I was really manifesting in my body. And the doctors will give me medication. I came from the pharmaceutical world, so I know what those things do to you. So I used to have when I spoke at the time, I was giving my testimony. For a moment there, I had 56 different prescriptions for different parts. I had lost my vision, so they give me something for the eyes, and that will give me, high blood pressure somewhere else, and I will take another pill for that. They gave me chemo. They gave me so many different things. I was so toxic. My face didn't look right. And as part of that, I lost a lot of my hair. And when I was in the corporate world, you have to have a certain look.
Like you do now.
Yeah.
I looked very different, actually. But I kept my hair straight. It was part of my look of being in the corporate world. I'm a tough lady, and I can handle all these guys. Because it's a white male world, dominated by men, really.
Yes.
So I really needed, and I had a high position. So, you need to look like you know what you're doing. So part of my look was keeping my hair very straight. And as part of all the medication and all that, and I couldn't really lift my arms very much, so blow drying my hair became really a struggle. My husband became really good at it. He would do a lot for me while I was
Sounds like
sick.
a fine man.
He is the best man in the world. Yes, he loved me. He taught me how Christ loved. Yes, he became my caregiver. He would care for me, and he loved me. And
So was he ahead of you, Malvina, in matters of faith?
No.
No. All right.
I guess we were both in the same place. But I was not a nice lady. I was not very sweet. The corporate world had made me very harsh.
Of course.
Yes, and I was very driven. I worked 24/7. I'm a high energy person, but way back when I had 25 times the energy I have now. So, I drove my family hard. I drove my children hard. They can tell you stories. And my poor husband, he's just trying to keep up with me, but he loved me, and he's loved me unconditionally. And through that illness, you see, actually, through my life, I separated from my family. My children were being raised by somebody else, and my husband just came along. And now I can't do what I did, and I depend on a lot of different people. And I realized that okay, now I got to let him take care of me, which I didn't know what that looked like, because I was very independent. So it was a great revelation of true love in how his patience, because I was mean. And he was very patient with me. He stayed by me and cared for me and took the time. Now we have to figure out how to live.
So let's, as you enter this whole new chapter, let's talk about that when we come back. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Okay.